Hi. Whoa. What? What? That was like the longest millennial pause. My bad. Hi. Yeah, let me just start the show. Wow.
KZMB All Zombie Radio.
Okay. Here we are. And by we, I mean me. And for that, I apologize. Um, so let me just overlay the chat. Um, yeah, so funny story. I was crashing out about TikTok being banned. And I had forgotten that the show was coming back. My job also changed over the break, and so I have been running my tail off, just trying to keep up with like day-to-day stuff. Takira also missed the premiere. She said she got onto um X or Twitter or whatever, and and she was like, "Oh, I wondered why I had been tagged so many times." she also missed. She also had missed it. The premiere. We're bad at this, clearly. So my apologies. Um, yeah, Takira was going to be here with me tonight, but she is sick, as is her entire family. And so they're holed up at home. And she had said that she could do a show tomorrow at 8. But there was a miscommunication when she told me that, and I thought she meant tonight at 8. I was like, great. So then I tweeted that out, and then people started to like it. I was like, oh, my bad. She meant tomorrow. So I'm going to go ahead and cover episode 9 tonight. And Takira and I will be back again tomorrow night at 8 p.m., which is unusual. We normally don't run a Saturday night show, but we will be back tomorrow night. I hate my camera so much. Why does it do that? Why? I need like one that doesn't have I don't know. The autofocus is so bad. Anyway, it'll come back into focus eventually, I guess, or it won't because I keep moving and that moves the camera because my desk is horrible, but that's fine. No one's here to listen to this rant anyway. So I will cover episode 9 tonight and we will cover episode 10 tomorrow night for fun. So you get a double header here. You get 2 nights of Finding Found. That reminds me, welcome to the show on my channel. It's called Finding Found, in which we find, I don't know, the stuff that wasn't found on the episode of the hit NBC TV show Found that airs Thursday nights at God knows when, but it's late. 9? I don't remember. It's late. I'm old. I'm usually asleep. I will admit, I watched both last week's episode and yesterday's episode today. I got up early before work, watched an episode before work, then watched part of an episode on my break at work, then finished the episode while I was working on stuff in my classroom because I'm a teacher this year. So yeah, so I watched it, them both, and I have to say 9 was great, 10 was also great, but I'm going to focus in on 9 right now. So episode 9 of season 2, entitled Missing While Targeted, was directed by Charissa, and I am going to butcher her last name, but I'm going to try. Sanjar Ern Suthical. Sweethical? Anyway, I apologize. That's her name. And then it was written by David Feige. Now, we talked about this before we went on break, but I'll go into it again. David Feige is an American lawyer, legal commentator. He wrote a memoir. He was co-creator of a TNT drama called Raising the Bar. That's what we talked about before we went on break. We did talk about those details. This episode aired on January 16th, so not yesterday, but the Thursday prior. The ratings are in, so I can give you that, which is great. Normally, I don't have that information for you. The viewers for the US in millions is 2.52. which is the highest so far this season. It is not as high as last season's. Last season did have much higher numbers, but not bad. Not too shabby, honestly. Rating share is 0.29, which as I'm looking over it is the highest of the season also. Again, not as high as last season. But considering it's time, because this is in a not great time slot, in my opinion. Not too bad. Not too bad. So, I do want to mention something before I get into the episode fully. Someone created a Found wiki. There is now a wiki for Found, which did not exist before. And it is causing my computer to maybe crash. Because if you don't know, anything.fandom.com/wiki has so many ads, but so sweet. So sweet that someone did that. Let's see if they've got episode specific stuff up for this episode. Let me check. I'm sorry, it's going to lag out now. So fun. So fun. No. No, it doesn't. It hasn't been updated. They probably forgot about it too. They probably also forgot to watch the episodes. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close that before it crashes my web browser. But holy cow. Okay. But very exciting news that someone is putting together a wiki for that. Why not? Why not? People are into it. All right. So, missing well targeted. The episode starts off with the recap, which I desperately needed. So, thank you for that. And then it starts out with Gabby. Gabby's in the gym when we end the episode. She's in the gymnasium of her old school, and Hugh Evans, or Sir, is there, but over loudspeaker. I don't know. He created some sort of really weird trap for Trent to come into. He refers to him as Heavy Boots exclusively now, which is hilarious to me. So he comes in and I'm sorry. So Gabby comes in and he's over the loudspeaker and he's like, "You have to come to me." And then he lights up spotlights across the bro, the drama. Also, how much time have you put into, and also you're spending all your money on spotlights? These can't belong to the school. I thought the school was closed down. It was so weird. Truly over the top, Sir, for sure, but like on brand for him, definitely. It then heads over to there's a little karaoke night happening at Zeke's house with Lacey and Don and Ethan, which was cute. They kind of talk about like, we need to talk about the real issues. Like Don and Ethan, are you going to talk through your issues? Lacey, are you going to go back to law school? Zeke, how are you going to deal with not having your stuff anymore because you can't have computers or whatever? And all of them decide like they just really don't want to talk about it. and Zeke says that it's not the kind of problem that he can throw money at, is what his dad had told him about it. He said until then, he's got his circa 1987 landline phone, which I take personal offense to because landline phones did exist longer than that, but that's fine. Don and Ethan do share that they are living separately. They need space. And then they find out that they have a new case. And Ethan is not happy about it because Ethan is very mopey. And I'm still not 100% sold on him, and that is a theme that we see in this episode. So I'll get to it in a second. Um, they go to M&A, and there's a woman waiting for them, and she's like, "Where is Gabby?" And Don is like, "You're welcome to wait, but someone's missing, and every minute counts, so we can just get started with this." And so she goes into like, "He's the love of my life. I don't know what I'm going to do without him." Ian is his name, and he's different, but in a good way. Anyway, he left 2 nights ago and he never came back. Um, he left her a note. He said, "I'm sorry. Trust me. I'll make you proud. I love you." They've been together for 2 years. They met at rehab. Here's my issue. I was his peer support counselor. What's the deal here with the counselors, therapists dating their patients? I know it's a peer counselor, but they are told specifically that they are not supposed to date when it comes to dealing with addiction, because you're not mentally well. And so you're actually told, like, you shouldn't date for a while. Get clean, be okay in that, and then you can think about dating. But you don't need to be bringing people in and all their problems early. So a bit weird, but this is just something we do now. She goes on and on about how he's really great and says that he did relapse 2 weeks ago. Don makes kind of a face to this. He doesn't love that he's like a drug addict, because Don has his issues with that, which were brought up in season 2 earlier in the season before the break. Um, he had a record when he was using, but he hasn't gotten in trouble since then. And then she has to go. Anyway, they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna find your guy. We're gonna find your man. Don't worry." Um, Eileen is the woman's name. She leaves Ian's laptop. She did used to have the password, but he changed it, and that's not sketchy at all. And so they're like, "Okay, well, maybe he's like keeping some secrets. We don't really know." Gabby said that she was on a personal errand, but she still has not made it back. So they're a little bit worried about that. Anyway, we find out that Gabby's been conked in the head by someone from behind her. With a like a 2x4. and and we come to find out that Sir has photos of like 7, I think, missing boys. And he's like, "Yeah, what do you think they all have in common?" And she's like, "It cannot be Trent. That doesn't make any sense." And he's like, "Yes, it is." You find out at the I believe it's at the end of this episode. Oh, I'll come back to it. I don't want to ruin it in case it's not. There is also a little weird scene where Trent goes to his bed and there's a woman in it. And she's like, "You're acting really sketchy and you won't answer any of my questions. And I don't like that. Who broke your heart? Because I'm intuitive and a lawyer. Criminal defense, though. So we're not really sure how we feel about her." Anyway, my initial instinct was, this is Hugh's sister. Thoughts on that? Leave a comment. That was my immediate thought. This is Hugh's sister. Something's going on here. I don't know though, because there is an accomplice and we don't know for sure who it is. All right, so Trent's being like kind of blocking Lacey and the team from dealing with the case, because Lacey and Don are dealing with the case. Zeke is at home, can't really do anything. Margaret, as we know, had like kind of the mental break and is out of the picture right now. Lacey's like, "You can't touch this computer. I'm gonna hack it." And Zeke is like, "Okay." Then she's like, "Well, I'll do it. You just tell me what to do." Pretty sure the police could still convict on that, but it's fine. It's fine. Um, we come to find out, why do I keep saying that? We come to find out. That's so weird. Anyway, Sir is talking to Gabby again. He's being extra creepy. He's like, all I want is you and your companionship and the life we are destined to have together. And it's like, it's just so creepy. And then he's like, also, I know what happened to Jamie. And she's like, no, you don't. You're lying. And he's like, no, I know. I can tell you if you come with me. That is that true? Anyway, then Don runs into a drug dealer who's like trying to beat up some kid, and he's like, leave that kid alone. I'll give you some money if you talk to me. And he's like, I'm not a rat. And he's like, I'm not a cop. And then he asks him, like, do you know about Ian? He says, used to buy for me, then must have gotten sober or locked up or something because I didn't see him for a while. And he came back 2, maybe 3 weeks ago, must have relapsed. Um, he was copying a whole lot more than before. And everything about him screams scared. And he's like, did he tell you what he's scared of? And he's like, no, I don't care. I'm just trying to make my money. Then Trent shows up to the gym where Gabby has been knocked out by a 2x4 by somebody behind her. So not Sir. And Sir, I think, says like, no, don't, or something before the person hits her, or I don't know, goes to, whatever. It doesn't matter. Anyway, then she's kind of talking like out of it because she obviously ends up with a concussion. And she's like, don't take me to jail. I have to spread my dad's ashes. He was a good man. Um, and then it fast forwards. It flashbacks to when Gabby was a kid and her dad was calling her and saying like, I'm leaving rehab. And she's like, no, you can't do that. You have to go back. And as it turns out, we see for the first time Lacey's dad. So Mr. Parker is there. I have to admit, kind of a babe, like in a weird dad energy way. Very good looking. At this point, um, again, the Parkers are relying on a teenage girl who has been through massive trauma to relieve their emotional burdens. So fun. So fun, so cool. Um, Bella won't speak to her dad because she's afraid of men because of the whole thing with Sir. And that's why he was taking all the long haul trucking jobs, because he wanted to be away from Bella so that she had time to process. It was like out of respect. It was like supposed to be a kindness to her. And so I thought that was kind of sweet. But again, he's sharing this with a teenage girl who's already been through a ton of stuff. She doesn't need to hear it. Gabby shouldn't have to be responsible for telling him that he's a good dad. It's like, it's weird that it's happening. We skip back to Lacey and Zeke breaking into the computer. They get in. And then she ends up going to the hospital because obviously Gabby is there. Oh, I'm sorry. Because there's a body and they think that is Ian. For 1 second, I was like, maybe finally something will happen in one of these episodes in which someone will be dead. I hate to say that. That sounds horrible that I'm like, wish it would happen. But the issue is that there's no real stakes in a lot of these episodes because almost always everyone is found. That's not the case in real life. I get that this is like it's like nice that happens, but I feel like there has to be at least one where they get there too late just to really sell it. I hate to say that. That makes me sound so morbid, but I think that that's really what needs to happen to give this show some more weight, because it just doesn't really have the weight that it needs. And we'll talk about that in a minute because it'll come up near the end of the episode. Gabby is talking to Trent about what had happened, and he's like, there were no pictures, there was no evidence that Sir was there. And she's like, I saw him, there were pictures of kids. I'm not crazy. And he's like, okay, but you went to get him by yourself, and that was crazy. And Lacey shows up. Don shows up eventually. Anyway, she's fine. She's got a hit in the head and is crazy. Um, they do want they know that there's an accomplice now. Officially, they do want Trent to bring in Christian, and Christian is announced as a person of interest by the PD. We haven't seen Christian in a while. It seems too obvious to me still, but okay. Um, we thought Ian's body was in the morgue, is what Lacey says. It wasn't him. So yet again, Ian is still alive. Um, Margaret's away. Zeke can't do anything because of DCPD. We're dealing with an addict. And she's like, no, you need me. Ian needs me. I got to get up to speed on the case. So they get Gabby up to speed, and all three of them start working on it all together. It's like they go back to Eileen to talk to her for a little bit. You find out that they're like searching the apartment. You find out that Eileen and him wanted to have a baby, which is fine. The drug addict thing did not bother me in the slightest. So if you don't know this about me already, I am actually married to an ex drug addict. He went to rehab and came out and has been good since, and thankfully he has not relapsed or anything, and we have a marriage that works. And so this kind of like hot topic doesn't really bother me, or even it's not even really something I consider a hot topic, because again, if you know me, I had my own problems with drugs, substance abuse, and alcohol. um and I come from a family of a lot of that. And so like this whole concept really never bothered me. I understand that this is kind of supposed to be hot topic. I don't know. I feel like they're trying to sell something that maybe not everybody's on board with anymore. This kind of seems like a dated thing to me. However, often drug addicts can be written off as like they're just relapsing and that's why they're missing. So, even if they are clean at the time. So I can see like why they brought it up. It's interesting. It's more than once in a season they kind of brought up this concept. So I know that they're really trying to sell this point that like just because you're missing doesn't mean that you chose to be missing. So I could see that being like a marginalized type of person. Those people are marginalized for a lot of different reasons. This wasn't like an area that pushed my buttons, like the being in a relationship with somebody. Good on you. That's great. That's awesome. I love that for people who are recovered. So that's not really the hot topic. I feel like we could have focused in on some other aspects of this that maybe would have made more sense to me. But this is the one that they went with for this episode, which is fine. Ian has a side hustle. His side hustle is stealing luggage at the airport. There's a second guy that gets caught when they steal luggage. That guy has been in jail in DCPD custody since then, so he is not the person who took Ian or anything like that. So at this point, Trent he like waltzes into M&A, and they're like, don't make us fire our receptionist. But I'm like, why is your receptionist just letting him walk in still? Uh, so I'm not sure what's going on there. But Lacey owns up to like eye access stuff. Zeke didn't do it. And anyway, they get back to like talking about the case. So they look into this guy. His name is Jimmy or something, but it doesn't matter because he literally is not worthwhile at all. Now, let's see. So at the same time, Gabby also asks for, I think, Don, who's going to the courthouse, to look up anything he can find on Lawrence Johnson, who went missing around 1984. Now, I'm assuming that that's one of the children in the photos, but I don't think we really talk about it again. They go to schedule a press conference. Gabby's going to do the press conference. Trent is very against the press conference. He's like, it could put him in more danger. Gabby's like, it could save his life. I don't understand. We always do this. Why are you mad about it now? And so he tries to stop him. And then they kind of they push like she push they're pushing each other back and forth. So there's like an interchange here. I'll read what it says. What's going on with you? No, never mind. We've already lost enough time. Stop. I need to talk to you about what happened at that school. So Trent says, person's life is at stake, Trent. And you want to talk about sir nonsense? You were consorting with a fugitive, Gabby. Are you serious right now? Is what Gabby says to Trent. Ever since Lacey was kidnapped by Sir, you've been talking with him on the sly, meeting him without telling me. And now it turns out, right when you start saying Christian was involved, he goes missing. So he's still like pissed about everything and really pushing that like Gabby is somehow involved in all of this. Um, she just tells him, she's like, get out of my way. She with one hand behind her back, she turns her phone on to record, which like is a skill that I wish that I had. And then he's like, give me your phone. So she gives it to him and he takes her to lock her up. And so there, M&A is like, you need to do the press conference. Gabby's doing it. Gabby's under arrest, or at least I think she is. I get a weird voice memo from her, is what Lacey says. And so Lacey goes down to DCPD to try to get her out. And then essentially Don has to do the press conference. It's nice to see this character growth for Don because he's got a lot of issues with like drug addicts and kind of how they behave and the choices that they make because of things that have happened in his past that we have kind of already hashed through in this second season. But he gives a really nice speech. He says, let's see, things snowball. Sometimes we do things that are bad for ourselves, bad for the people who love us. Things snowball, take on a life of their own. And before we know it, we're in a place we don't recognize, a place we never wanted to be. Addiction does that. And addiction did that to Ian Sessions. And now he's missing. Watching from the outside, it can be hard to understand how drugs can turn someone we love into someone so unrecognizable. I know that from personal experience because I used to be, like many of you, quick to judgment. But the basic truth is, whether we understand it or not, whether we judge or not, Ian doesn't have to be perfect or even sober to be loved and to be found. And that's one of the biggest points that I really enjoyed about this was the fact that they really honed in on the fact that you don't have to be perfect to be found. That's kind of the whole point of this show, right? These marginalized peoples needing to be found. It's what we saw in history with children like JonBenet Ramsey, children like Elizabeth Smart. If they're the cute, blonde, pretty, well-to-do family children, they're in the limelight when they go missing. But there are thousands of children that go missing all the time that are not shown in that light. And so I did enjoy this, that it was kind of hammering in on that. So okay, so then Trent is like talking with Gabby. And essentially Lacey gets her out. And then Lacey and Gabby are talking, and Lacey's like, obviously you have a concussion. That's not what she says, but basically that's what she says. And she's like, I don't even know why you went after him. Like, you knew he was going to be there. And she's like, no, I didn't. She's like, of course you did. Of course you did. And Lacey says to her, I saw you in the hospital today and I'm not ready for you to leave. I'm not ready for you to die. I'm not ready. And she starts crying, which is so sad. Then we go back to another flashback about Bella slash Lacey. She's screaming. She's really worried. She's strong. She's, it's the whole thing with her dad. I think Gabby's like, I think you need to call Miss Gina. I was just trying to give her a break, and Gabby's like, no, she needs to come home. It's okay. Anyway, it's a whole thing about like dad is working on it. He's trying his best. He's not as effective as mom would be in this situation, but again, he's been gone during these weeks because he was trying to give space to his daughter who is struggling with being around men after being kidnapped. So after that, Margaret is kind of lurking around. They're like, you gotta stay out of that. We miss you, but um take your time. You don't need to come back yet. There's been some tip lines, and it's been buzzing with mostly fake Ian sightings, but one interesting pattern emerged. 3 people called saying they saw Ian locked up in a drunk tank at 3 different precincts. And this is where Gabby starts to put something together about what happened. As it turns out, Ian witnessed a killing when he was in jail. And because he saw what happened and he was going to testify about what happened, most likely about one of the officers, the PD was hiding him by placing him in different drunk tanks at different precincts, kind of shuffling him around so they could keep him safe, but keep him like an eye on him. Trent knew and has been lying the whole episode. So Gabby shows up at Trent's house. She goes to talk to Ian. This part cracked me up because Ian's like laying in bed eating, I think, when she rolls in. And it was like classic bed rot behavior because like my man is bored. You know what I mean? He's bored. And it was so funny to me that it was like this weird moment of like, oh, okay. Yeah, I guess that's what I would be doing too if I was waiting. Um, e- Essentially, Ian's gonna testify in this case. And so Gabby's like, I can take you home now. I can take you home to Eileen. She's waiting for you. But Ian is like, I have to do this. I have to do this so that I can be the man that she wants me to be, that she sees me as. I have to do this for our family before we start this family. And so he's like, tell Eileen I love her. I'm so sorry what I've done to her. But she won't be safe until I get through this. And so Gabby walks with, I'm sorry, Gabby agrees to bring Eileen and everybody else to the trial so that they can be there for him. So everybody shows up, okay, at the trial the next day. Here's what's crazy. Why have you not brought him in with more than one police officer? Why haven't you brought him in a back way? Why are y'all just standing out front where everybody can see? We all knew what was going to happen, right? Like we all knew that he was going to get pew-pewed at. We all knew it. So I was just like waiting for this thing to happen and like obviously was going to. Oh, and then it did. Except Ian's okay. He can still go testify. But someone else got shot because there is blood on Gabby's sweater. And we find out it's Don. Don has been shot. They're taking him into surgery. And Ethan says, what I really need right now is space and time away from you. I have had to share him with you every moment of our relationship. He's talking to Gabby. And if this is our last one, then just please let me have this one. And so Gabby leaves, which is it's the respectful thing to do. So I'm glad that she did, because that's really, she owes Ethan that. She does. Because Trent lied to Gabby about having Ian, they kind of had this like back and forth about the fact that like he's been lying to her. And that's kind of the same thing that she was doing to everybody else. And also then she sees a bra that was conveniently left behind by who I'm thinking is Sir's sister. But anyway, the harlot from the night before. And she left that bra there on purpose. Be for real. Be for real. You put on your shirt without a bra and you're just so perky and fine that you don't realize that. There's no like slight breeze that tickles the front of you that you think, certainly I should have my bra on. You be for real. It bothered me so much. Gabby finds out in her like, I mean, let's face it, she's sulking. Okay, she's sulking. She's sad. She puts together that Sir must be in an RV, which we have known the whole time because we keep seeing these shots of him sitting at like a camper table. And then we find out that SUR is in Trent's house. And Trent's an idiot because he locks up his gun immediately upon walking in his house. And so SUR takes it. And he's like, "What do you want?" And he shows him all these pictures of the missing kids. 7 cold cases, all young children, all taken in Southeast DC, all in 1 year. And Trent's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." He's like, "Even a cursory look," this is what SUR says, "would have made clear that there was a serial something on the loose, and yet somehow no press, no arrests, no nothing. Would you like to take a guess at who the lead detective was?" And like, clear, it's from the 80s. Clearly, it was not Trent. "That's right," SUR says. "The illustrious detective, James Trent, your father. Take a good look. These faces, these children, these photos are going to destroy your father, your family, and your legacy." How that destroys your legacy, I have no idea. Unless his father is the one who was serially kidnapping these children. Otherwise he's just like, maybe he's not a great cop. Okay, I don't think anybody cares about that. Now has nothing to do with Trent. And then SUR is like, "Drop the case against my Gabrielle, or all of this comes out." And then the episode ends with Gabby showing up at the front door and a gunshot going off. So fun. We'll talk about the next episode tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on this show. But Takira will be with me, so it'll be more fun. All right. So I did want to read an article to you from Screen Rant. It's season 2, episode 9's Double Shocker, explained by showrunner. Quote, "There needed to be real consequences." This was written by Rachel Forsch. And this was written last week on the 17th. There are spoilers for the episode, but we just went through the whole episode, so who cares? All right. After taking a hiatus for the holidays, Found returned on NBC on January 16th with one of its most eventful installments to date. Honestly, this truly felt like this could have been a season premiere. I mean, this was really great. Season 2, episode 9, Missing While Targeted, leaves Don's fate uncertain after he is shot in the aftermath of a case. However, the security expert isn't the only main character whose life is hanging in the balance. The winter premiere ends with SUR holding Trent at gunpoint and Gabby hearing a bang from outside of the house. When speaking with Screen Rant, showrunner Carol explains why both major events occurred in the same episode. She shares that there needed to be real consequences for SUR being on the loose, as he has now touched every member of Mosley and Associates. And additionally, it was important to show that Mark Paul Gosselaar's character is not the only threat. Okoro Carol wants to remind viewers that Gabby's team is not superhuman and their cases are inherently danger. This was her full response, which is listed below. Screen Rant asks, Don gets shot, and we also hear a gun go off during Trent and SUR's standoff. What made you decide to put both cliffhangers in the same episode? Carl Carroll states, when we started in the writer's room, we didn't have our airing schedule yet. So I was like, well, shoot, any of these episodes could end up being our winter finale and our winter premiere. So literally, that's why every episode just kind of goes like gangbusters. It's been a lot of fun. I'm like, we're just writing every episode like it's a mid-season finale. And so the storyline dictated those two things coming to a head in the same episode. And it ended up being our winter premiere, which is great. Given the journey that Gabby is on this season and the search for atonement and feeling like she needs to pay for not only what she did to SUR, but the havoc she's wreaked in everyone's lives as a result of it, SUR has pretty much touched every member of M&A and those closest to her in some way, shape, or form. Now that he's just out wild and loose, just out there unhinged, love that. There needed to be real consequences to that. There needed to be real escalation to that. And that's kind of what we built in the school with Gabby and SUR. And the case that he brings to her attention, that he brings her attention to, that has sort of a very personal connection to Trent. And that will have repercussions through the whole back half of the season. So that had to sort of culminate in a SUR isn't a man of inactive words. If he promises something, he's going to deliver on it. And so that sort of spoke to why that cliffhanger had to happen that way. where the only way for these two men to meet had to be like that. It had to be gunpoint to gunpoint, two mirror images of each other, sort of Law and Order versus lives by his own rules. Because in his mind, what he's doing isn't wrong. In his mind, he's saving people from their lives, from Sir's perspective. And so he's sort of the opposite of what Trent is. It felt like they could only meet in that kind of standoff. And then for Don's, the build of that is the reminder that these cases they work on are dangerous. They're regular citizens. They are not cops. They didn't go to special training to be these sort of vigilantes of sorts. They have things in their background that make them good for the job, but at the end of the day, they have chosen to turn their trauma into purpose. They have chosen to give of themselves without the superhero Iron Man suit and all the things. They're just regular humans out there trying to save lives, and that comes with an inherent danger. It felt like it was the right time to also remind the audience of that, because if Gabby is sort of facing the toughest moments of her life, what does that look like if her team are not at their best? If her team are sort of breaking apart and falling apart by the wayside? That was how everything built to where it did for that moment in that episode. And so that was the episode. There are a couple more blurbs in here, but it looks like they are for different articles. So I like getting that kind of background to why um they felt like this was important to put this in here. I really I really enjoyed them adding that level of danger to it. Now again, I struggle with this because again, Ian was found. Best case scenario. Also, what happens with Ian? Does he testify? Is the person who tried to shoot at him caught? Like, is this just going to keep happening where random people are being shot at? Or were they aiming at Ian? Was it someone aiming at Gabby because they don't like that Sir is spending so much time with her? Like, I feel like there's a lot of questions that come along with this episode, so I'm curious to see if they play out for the rest of the season. It's nice to see that this storyline with Trent's father will come into play later, because I am curious about it and I would like to know. Kind of hard to have like a siloed view of this ninth episode because I have seen the 10th. And so really I'm going to kind of leave it here for you. So I will share that the next episode is the 10th episode, which we will be covering tomorrow again at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It will be me and Takira. We will go through that episode kind of step by step, and then we will talk about any points of interest. There were some really funny points in the episode, so I am excited to talk about that. It was entitled Missing While Outed. It aired on the 23rd, so yesterday evening. It was directed by Rob Hardy. And I don't believe that Rob Hardy has done any directing for these episodes yet. He has a partner named Will Packer, who founded a production company together. His film credits include The Gospel, which is a Christian drama. It retells the parable of the prodigal son in a modern context, that's kind of interesting. Tra, or yeah, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's an erotic. Wow, we're going left and right here, bud. One and two. Erotic thrillers. Wow. Okay. Yeah, the second one stars Michael J. White. So interesting. His television credits include ER, Criminal Minds, Arrow, and The Game. So he seems to be kind of that guy of directors, and like television production. The episode stats are not available yet. But they might be available tomorrow, and so then I can tell you guys like how the ratings were for that episode. Episode 10 is a really good one. I am looking forward to talking about it, and so I will do that tomorrow evening with Takira. We'll be back live on my channel for that. So show up if you want. Should be fun. Yeah. thank you for being here. I see there are people in the audience, so thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Feel free to comment on Twitch or YouTube, and I will see them. And I will even read them out loud. We can have a little chat if you want. But I'll see you guys again tomorrow night. I'm gonna head out. I haven't eaten dinner yet, and I'm very tired. But I love you. Thank you so much for being the sweet angel babies that you are. And I'll see you again tomorrow if you're here. Okay.